So I'm going to hand you over now to Brendan Lynch, who will take us from here.
Thanks, Pete, and hello again, everybody. And yes, look, thanks, Paul. That was a really good, I guess, entree into what we talk about next. And I do agree that once you get the governance right and you have the board in place to set the strategic planning, that then can flow into the operational planning a little bit later on. So setting the strategic direction of an organisation means that we're trying to travel along with a single agreed direction for the organisation. We want to make sure that we document it effectively, and not just document it, but also promote it, use it, and make sure we're constantly reviewing and updating it, and ensuring that it's got key steps that are leading us to our targets and our goals. The strategic plan should be used by an organisation to focus its energy, to ensure that the members of an organisation are working towards the same goals, and to assess and adjust the organisation's direction in response to a changing environment. It's often a question we get asked that once a plan is in place, can you change it? Well, yes, of course you can, because as you're reviewing it, things might change around you. There might be a change in the political scene, there might be a change in funding, there might be new opportunities that you see. So an organisation has to be flexible enough to adjust its plans, but ensuring that it is still working towards its major direction. Who should be involved when we're designing a strategic plan? This should be an inclusive process, ensuring those who have a stake in the work and mission of the organisation take part in the process in an appropriate way. This doesn't mean that every stakeholder must come to a joint consensus, but it does mean that those interested have a chance to be heard by the decision makers. So obviously we want people like the board and senior management involved at the very beginning. We need a consultation process that gets out to our stakeholders and our members. We want to hear from the stone throwers as well. We don't want people left out of the process, but that then all comes back to make a decision on which way that the plan will go. It doesn't mean that every idea has to be included, but it's important that everybody's had a chance to actually have their say. Where do we start? The first question we should always ask is, why are we here? What's our purpose? We need to know what our mission is and the reason that we're actually doing what we're doing. So get that right first. If your mission isn't guiding the organisation, well, you need to ask yourself, well, why not? Then we talk about all the different ranges of plans. What's in a name? Strategic plans, development plans, organisational plans, operational plans, business plans. It's a SMART plan. Now, when you see those 4 or 5 plans there above, major organisations, national sport organisations will probably have all those. Smaller ones may just have a couple of plans or a couple of those plans rolled into one. That's fine, as long as we're capturing the information that works for you. But importantly in all these, that it is a SMART plan. SMART planning, the S is for specific. It's got to be measurable, so we have to, as part of the process, make sure we identify our key success measures, how we're actually going to measure if we're successful or not. It's got to be achievable. It's got to be realistic. It's not a wish list. It's really important that we don't just put things in our plans that we know we can't achieve. We have to be realistic about it. And most importantly, it has to be time linked. We want to know each year what we're trying to achieve and make sure we have realistic timelines on those. Examples, we aim to be the national champions by 2014 and we're currently ranked 7th. Well, that's probably not going to happen. We'd probably need to do a fair bit of work around that to maybe get to rank 3rd. The framing statement for success is really talking about setting the vision for the organisation. The vision is where we see ourselves. The vision is where we see ourselves and more importantly, where others see us in the life of the plan. So we start off with a sentence like, for our association to be successful, we need to ... So we need to have a clear vision of where we're going and where others see us going. So what are your strategic areas? And they might be things like governance, they might be membership, they might be participation, they might be competition. Volunteers, obviously, in all sport is critical. Athlete pathways, fundraising, policy and procedures, and finance. These are the things that you need to focus, I suppose, on and say, what are the key things for us? What are the most important things for us in our plan, and develop areas in each of those. It's now poll time.
it's poll time. We thought we'd throw in a little bit of a poll question here for you based on the what are your key strategic areas. I'm going to have a look at the poll and launch it just a second. Now, I realise some of you, of course, this is a fairly generic question that some of you in your positions won't have a kind of key strategic area, but have a look certainly in terms of your work, and if you're from a sporting organisation, national, state or local especially. And let's have a look at the poll in terms of your key. What is your key strategic area? You can vote on one of these. If you keep voting, cover one of these, which would you say off the top of your head? Very unscientific piece of research, but it's good to see what people think here about what is your key strategic area. Governance structure, competition, membership, participation, or volunteers. Now we have about 65% voted so far. I'll give it a couple more seconds. Just be interested to see from the collection. Remember, we had the most people on this webinar are actually from government, but we also have national sports organisations, state sports organisations, and even local clubs as well. So it's quite a good mixture. We have about 80% voted so far. You can vote directly on the screen by clicking one of those buttons. Let's see if we can get up to 85% voted. 86%. Okay, I'm going to close the poll. And share those results. Let's have a look. Okay, what is your key strategic area? Governance structure 33%, competition 6, membership 17, participation 31, volunteers 14%. Now keep in mind, of course, this of the makeup of our attendees on this particular webinar, but it's just interesting for us to see what sort of areas come out on top as strategic priority areas. And according to our highly scientific research there, governance structure comes out at the top with participation. Okay, back to Brendan. I think I've shared. Yes, I've closed that poll. Okay, keep the questions coming in, guys. We've got some coming in, and we will try and get to them at some stage. The questions. Let me just expand those out a bit. Brendan, what direction is your NSO heading?
Thanks very much, Peter. And look, very interesting results there, particularly with the focus on governance, so how we actually govern ourselves, and a high rating for participation, so looking at how we actually grow our sport and grow our organisation. One of the things we need to be careful of in setting the direction is that we have to ensure that we're not duplicating. So this is where I suppose the NSO sets the national direction, and we talk about local delivery. So if you're a state-based organisation or a club, it's important to know what that national direction is, and that you're actually working with that and not working against it or off in a different direction. So there can be a risk of duplicating effort by not adopting national policies and programs. When we look at those areas that we talked about before in the poll and the strategic priorities, for sport, they tend to fit into two major categories. One's about growing our sport, and the other one's about developing our business. So we look at some of these as examples. So increasing our junior participation, completing a governance review, qualifying a team for the competition in 2014, increasing our income by 10%, ensuring that all coaches have access to a level 1 coaching course, and implementing a maintenance plan immediately. So if you look at each of those, they tend to fall into things to do with our sport and things to do with our business. And that's often a way, particularly for a small organisation, to design their strategic plan around those two areas. And most things will actually sort of lump into those two slots. When we get the headlines, we then start to break down the priorities and the things that we're trying to achieve. So looking at increasing our junior participation, we'll conduct a survey, we'll identify target areas where we want to grow, we'll create come and try days. And these are the things that start to flesh out the strategic plan and the initiatives that sit within them. When we want to say from the competition side, we want to qualify a team. Again, we go through and we review our selection policy. We look at competition schedules, fleshing out again the actual initiatives that live within each of those headlines. Monitoring is very, very important, and giving people responsibility of taking on this work. So once the plan is in place and we design the operating plans and the operating structure, and we decide who's doing what, it's important that we assign pieces of work to whether it's staff, whether it's volunteers in a small organisation. But there are some very simple templates that can actually help us with that stage of the plan and allocate that work accordingly. We also have to make sure that we're reporting. So anyone who has the responsibility for a particular part of the strategic plan to complete, we ask them to complete the following three statements. So by the end of 2013, we will have achieved, and they can fill that in. You will know we have achieved our goals because, so that's a success indicator. And to achieve this, we need, and that's where we talk about the resources that we need to actually complete and achieve those strategies. Again, another example of a very simple reporting tool that helps us keep on top of our plan for each of those areas that we've just talked about as examples. This again is a nice tool that can be used by small organisations. It can be more elaborate if needed for larger organisations. But the most important thing about reviewing is making sure it is done and that reporting is regular. Assigning priorities then, we have to weigh up, okay, are we going to focus on high performance? Are we going to focus on participation? And what percentage are we going to put our efforts into those two areas of sport? And they can vary depending on whether you're a national sport, a state sport, a local club, and that's where you decide how you're actually going to allocate your funding. So you look, say, where are most of your association's funds spent? Is it in the high performance area? Is it in the participation area? And that, of course, always adds up to 100%. Most importantly, then, is the reviewing process. The strategic plan and its associated success indicators should be regularly monitored and reviewed by the committee or the board. And as we said earlier, the plan can always be updated and adjusted if the environment changes or new opportunities arise. Thank you.